actually had my first panic attack right before college graduation.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for tuning in, downloading the episode. I really do appreciate that. Thanks for the folks that have reached out through Instagram and through the website at chewingthefatbr.com, especially around the Mother's Day episode. I really appreciate you reaching out and feeling some connection with that episode as far as dealing with aging parents. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I recommend you go take a quick listen to that as well. But also stay right here for right now because I'm excited about my guest in studio right now. He is a indie filmmaker. He is co-founder of Wages of Cine. He is a graphic design raconteur. Please welcome Stephen Gilliam.
Hey.
Hey. How are you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing good.
Good, man. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Stephen and I guess as a lot of these stories go, we met at probably Le Chat Noir.
Right.
It's where our first introduction to each other were, probably around either the Black Cat Picture Show or just some of the shows going on there at Le Chat. Mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with what you were doing with Wages of Cine because you guys were the first independent film company, really, that I had ever heard of in Augusta that was consistent and active and doing stuff. So I just thought it was really cool. And you guys just have such a big heart to help other people. I know I've mentioned that on other episodes before. Other guests have mentioned that too, especially ones that are in the film industry here in the Augusta area. But to get to know more about you, Stephen, are you from Augusta?
I've definitely lived in Augusta the longest, so it's definitely like I consider it my hometown. I was an Air Force brat, so born in Texas, went to Germany, lived up north in Ohio, then New Hampshire, and then I came down to Augusta, Georgia. Okay. So I was in fourth grade, so from fourth grade on up, I've been in Georgia.
Okay. So not a whole lot of like, do you still have connection back to New Hampshire?
Not New Hampshire, but I do have a family like up in West Virginia and Ohio area.
Okay. So do you ever go back and do some visiting?
We do. Like we try to like once a year go up to Kentucky. We have like a family reunion or Christmas type of thing.
Oh, so that's awesome. That's awesome.
Get to see some snow once in a while.
Yeah. So the majority of your, like you said, your life has been here in Augusta. Yeah. Were you always into like? You're very much into the horror genres. Wages of Cine is very much into the horror genre.
Horror, sci-fi.
We fantasy. Were you always into that type of stuff growing up?
It's weird because I look back growing up and I was into like Star Wars and like action stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and I was actually afraid of a lot of horror films. Like I saw Predator. I had to be like, I don't know, second grade or third grade. And it terrified me. Like, I mean, I wasn't supposed to be watching it. Like I was snuck in. My brothers had just watched it. And it messed me up. Like I was like terrified to like go outside and a predator was going to get me. And even years later, I was like in middle school. I was still afraid to like watch movies like Tremors and stuff. My friends were like, no, you got to watch this. And maybe it was that's kind of made me start to love like horror, that kind of like, it's like, I'm afraid. But,
fruit.
Yeah. But then you watch it and then it's fun. And it's like, I think from there, it just kind of grew from there. Then you start seeing the art of it, like I want to, make a skeleton that, blood comes out of his eyes.
Yeah. Did you do any of that type of like stuff? Did you get started making your own films and stuff when you get into like high school or something?
My dad had a Betamax video camera back in Germany. And once in a while he'd let us take it out and I'd make little stop motion Star Wars movies or like Transformers. I'd have them like do little like things I could do, stop and go. Mm-hmm. So I've done things like that. Back then, we didn't have like phones in our cameras in our phones. Yeah. So it was like hard to get a hold of something that was decent. I shot stuff like on handy cams and stuff. I never tried to make a story. It wasn't until years later. I was actually in college before I started trying to put a narrative together through video. I'd worked with like comic stories, things like that. But it was a while before, like I said, college.
Wow. And where did you go to college at?
I went to school at the Art Institute of Atlanta.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. And what was was film your
Graphic
major?
design. I majored in graphic design, but I took some classes in video and After Effects, and I was like, this is great. I can use a lot of the graphic design in this, and so it worked out really well.
That's awesome. So you're in Atlanta. Well, you were in Atlanta at the Atlanta School of Art.
Yeah, I went
Okay.
physical.
Right. I mean, it's it's so odd now because so many people are work remote. Or, well, not work. Well, yeah, they work remote, but they also can go to school remote. And it's like, oh yeah, I went to Yale. It's like, really, but you've never left Augusta.
Yeah.
So
I've had several friends that went to the art institute, but they went online. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's very cool. So after college, what was the plan? What was?
I didn't know. I actually had my first panic attack right before college graduation. I didn't really understand why at the time because I didn't feel like super stressed, but it was the doctor's like, you are about to graduate and enter like real world. You don't, and you're scared. You don't admit it to yourself, but it's like, yeah. And it was a while before I kind of landed like a job that was like in my field. Like I worked retail. I was doing I got like a stock boy job at the mall, and I started working at a camera store. And it was like, kind of in the things I liked, but it wasn't like, hey, this is your degree put to work. And it was like about 4 years before I landed like a solid, hey, I'm working in my field.
Wow. Was that did you stay in Atlanta?
No, I came back. My plan was to come back to Augusta for like a month and just kind of relax. And I went up for job interviews in Atlanta, and it seemed like everything was so expensive. And I was just like, I'm just going to stay in Augusta for a while and see what happens. And then luckily I landed a job that kind of stuck in Augusta. I'm like, well, I'll stay here for a while. And then a while became a while longer.
And a while longer. And a while longer.
Here I am.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So when did the idea for Wages of Sin come about?
It came through with Dan Beck as the other member. Eric Miller was the other member. They had like kind of like these cheesy movie nights, and like when I did hang out with them, because they were like friends first, and I got introduced to them. They were talking about like all the movies they were watching. And I was like, well, we need to get together and kind of watch these. And I think Dan was the one who he put together like a little Facebook group just mainly for us to kind of talk about cheesy movies. Like, well, let's do our first thing was a podcast where we watched a movie and we talked about it. And I don't know how many people, maybe nobody listened. I think we had some people reply. So 1 or 2 listeners.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if we're going to do this, let's just go and put us on camera and we'll record our podcast. And it kind of grew from there. We were making movies on the side, not really under Wages of Sin. It was just we're just making them. It's like, well, let's kind of make movies under Wages of Sin. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Let's make movies under Wages of Sin, and that way, if they're bad, nobody really knows it's us because we're just gonna call it, it's Wages of Sin movie.
Yeah.
But then like people started liking some of the stuff we were making, so like we were like, well, no, we gotta tell people we're Wages of Sin. This is us. So that was kind of a long answer to the
no.
Where did the Wages of Sin come from?
Yeah, no, that's great because and for the folks that don't have the transcription, Wages of Sin is CINE, like cinema. Wages of Sin.
And I believe that was Dan Beck. I think Dan Beck was all on the name on that.
Yeah, that's a good turn of phrase. So then so let's back up then. So how did you become friends with Dan and Eric? I mean, was that like a work thing? Was that just a hangout at?
Back then it was called Augusta Film. I was going there and I was making a movie called Sons of God. And I knew I think I met Dan at the meeting several times, but Dan actually came out and helped do lighting and grip on that movie. And we started talking on the side, and like he was into a lot of the same things I was into. And then afterwards, I was making a movie that I'm still making, Confederate Zombie, and he became a huge help on that. And he brought in Eric Miller, who he was friends with, and he started helping out a lot. And that's kind of where we all became friends.
Very cool.
Became close and working together.
Yeah, so back up. Yes. Yet again, I'm great at the storytelling thing. So how long between getting that graphics job and starting to film your own stuff back in Augusta was that like?
The first time I filmed a project, it was working at a camera store here in a town. And Dwayne Brown he was making a movie.
Yeah.
The drive was getting scared, and he wanted some help. And I was like, yeah, I've worked with a camera before, and I did After Effects. This is what I knew the best. But we actually started on Windows Movie Maker on their first few cuts before we realized, we got to step it up. But he needed some help, and I'd stepped in there to help out. And that was where I was maybe like 2004.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of my push, and like, hey, the technology is now to where we can do this, make something that looks decent and
a little bit more affordable, a little bit more accessible.
Yeah. I mean, it was tapes back then, but still it was something you could take and plug into a home computer and edit. And I'd never really experienced that before. So that was that first, like, wow, this is possible, and opened up a whole new world.
That's awesome. You feel like it feels like there's I don't want to say resurgence. There's always been like underground, B movie, cult movie followings and stuff like that. Do you feel like that because of the accessibility of equipment that looks really good that we carry around in our pockets already has changed that landscape?
I mean, definitely. I mean, from back then, like, there was nobody that we knew of that were making movies. I mean, now we look back, there were people that were shooting stuff on VHS, and I love watching that stuff because you have to be so creative to figure that out. Now everybody seems like they want to take their chance at making a movie, which is great. Make a movie, you got to see what you like. But there's definitely a lot more. Like, I mean, local film festival, like we work with, watching some of the movies there. There's every year more and more entries, and a lot more beginner entries we're seeing. So it's good. I say keep up, and if they love it, keep on make that second movie, make that next movie that's even better.
Right. So it becomes more of a proving ground. You make something, you're like, and of course all your family and friends are going to say it's great, but when you put it before, judges or a film festival or something, and they're like, that's not quite going to cut the mustard.
And it's a good learning experience.
Yeah.
I've submitted to several festivals, and the ones I enjoyed was when they give me feedback and like, this is why it's good or bad. Let me learn from it. So it's always good to get that feedback.
And you're involved, I know, with Black Cat Picture Show at Le Chat Noir, the International Film Festival that we do down there. You guys would have a Wages of Cine award, during the festival. They're going into the 9th year of Black Cat Picture Show now. But was it last year you guys decided to do your own film festival as well, or was that 2 years ago now?
We've always had originally it was 31 Days of Horror. Now it's 31 Days of Sin. Last year was the first year we actually had a sit down in person festival at Le Chat. And that was mainly, we wanted to be able to be on Film Freeway. And on Film Freeway, you have to have a physical showing of it. And it's like, well, this is also a good way to get a lot of people together who's all made stuff. So it was a packed house. People I'd never met before, which is always scary. You usually get, your circle comes in, that's cool. But to get that crowd you didn't even know you were reaching show up, that was a lot of fun. So that was our first physical festival last year. Yeah.
I know I got the opportunity to actually direct and shoot and submit a film for 31 days. Probably about four or 5 years ago. So which was a really cool process again. And it's funny because I shot mine all on a phone,
right?
And edited it on the computer.
And I'll be honest, shooting on the phone has been way more enjoyable for me in the past few years than shooting with all the equipment. I don't know if it's just because you can even though you start putting lights up and you're still doing audio and stuff, it's the idea I'm on my phone, so this isn't really that extreme. But even though you're taking the time to make it good, it just feels not as pressure. Maybe the pressure's not there and you're enjoying it more.
Interesting.
But I've enjoyed shooting with my phone way more than pulling out all the gear.
Yeah. So So it kind of takes the pressure off, and which is odd because they're still $1,000 phones. It's not $1,000 camera; it's $1,000 phone,
right?
So
we're still using all the same apps to do lighting correction. There's all the work is still in there. It's just a different format.
Yeah, yeah, a little easier to get into tight spaces and stuff like that. But and that's the thing is you can get lenses for your phone now too. I shot mine with an anamorphic lens for a phone. That's kind of, that's crazy.
And there's been Hollywood productions that have shot on phones.
Yeah.
So they look great.
Yeah. What's the one? There was a Will Smith movie that they shot all on phone. Focus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They shot that entire thing on phones. Now, when you look at the behind the scenes and all of the rigs that they have these phones connected to and stuff,
giant
and
rigs
it's like, oh, okay, but you know, if it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable behind the screen on your phone, and it's in this, you know, huge Gorilla Grip, you know, gear or whatever, you know, more power to you.
I think it makes you feel like you're putting the focus more on the story. You know, and for me, it's like, we're telling a cool story, so that's what's going to count. It's not that I'm shooting on a, you know, $1,000 lens, or but in it, that's what you want. You want to tell a good story. You want to entertain somebody. So.
Yeah. And you know, that's I never even thought about it that way. It kind of takes some of the, you know, barrier of the physical barrier of the equipment away, you know, so you're not behind this, you know, huge, you know, rack of, you know, lenses and all this other gear and stuff like that, focus pullers and things. You're just kind of right there. So it can be a more intimate experience for the director, for the actors and stuff like that. Yeah. That's a pretty interesting perspective on
We used to kind of joke around too. Like, we'd go to festivals and we'd talk to other directors, and sometimes the first thing they would say, "Oh, what'd your movie about?" Like, "Well, I shot it on a Red." It was like, that's the first thing you want to mention. It's like, it was shot. I mean, great camera, but what's your story about?
Right. What am I going to see the Red camera in this when I watch it? I
think if they could put it like in a mirror shot.
Right. Just, you know, wink, wink. See the shot of the Red in the mirror. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I guess they think that brings some sort of level of perceived perceptionism. Perceived, you know, quality, professionalism to the production.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I'd buy like a new camera, I'd put anything I could to make that lens look as big and powerful. Just because like people are like, "Oh wow, you know what you're doing," even though like, it's on auto right now.
It's on auto. It's like, I don't know how to do like any of that f-stop stuff. I'm not sure what that's all about. So with the Wages of Cine Film Festival, are you currently accepting?
We are. You can go to the Wages of Cine website, wagesofcine.com, or you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. And we are taking entries. There's a list of rules on there. I believe it's 5 minutes or less. And I'm looking for horror.
Is that so? I was going to say, is there like a specific genre or a type or anything like that?
But we showed this in October, so this is our 31 days of scary stuff.
Okay.
And then horror's got so many different, you know, you've got gore, you've got, you know, supernatural, suspense, thriller.
You've got comedy. You got comedy horror. That's some of my favorite stuff. Is like, and those are those films I know that I've seen like at Black Hat Picture Show that I enjoy the most. And I think that's kind of how we positioned the Wages of Cine Award. It's like, this may not be the best movie out there, but it literally had the most heart.
Right.
It's like you could tell the people were having the most fun making this.
Yeah. And there's something about that. It's hard to define or kind of pin. You know it when you see it, but it's like you can't just set out and like, hey, I kind of want to make a cheesy like horror movie. It has to be done naturally. Right. And it's something because you're trying your best to make something great. And and you capture it, you see it. You see like, man, they put everything into this. And it's fun to watch. It transfers. And it's that same thing, like going back to like, you know, video stores, like we used to rent videos. You'd see these movies that you'd never heard of before, but the artwork was amazing on the cover, and you'd rent it, and you could tell the director, they didn't have a budget and they're doing it the best they can. And something transferred, like, wow, everyone in here was working their best to make the best movie they could, despite the limitations of budget or whatever they had. And that's the fun. There's something about you can pick up on the fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you were talking about the artwork and stuff like that. You also do film posters and artwork and stuff like that as well, using that degree of yours.
Yeah. Finally. Yeah.
Is that something, again, that you were like a way to put that degree to work, or it's just, it's a passion of yours. You like being able to, because I guess now you have this connection with the film side of it. And that heart and that fun, it's like, hey, I'm gonna give them a really cool, you know, poster or artwork for their project.
I always tell them, I was like, I want to oversell your movie with the poster art. Like I want them to see the poster and think, oh my goodness, this is gonna be the best thing I've ever seen. And despite, you know, it might be, but you know, if it's not, I still want people to think, wow, going in, because that's what sold me growing up. I judged a book by its cover based on the video title, or the cover,
right? Or you, and this is something I don't think the young kids nowadays will understand, but like getting the newspaper and going to the film section, going to the movie section and seeing the the poster art in advertising whatever the movie was coming up out this Friday or this weekend or whatever it was, and deciding, all right, I've got my $150 for my matinee ticket. Where am I going to spend my allowance money? Yeah, and a lot of that was chosen by titles or movie posters.
Right. Like we didn't have, we couldn't just go and look at a trailer whenever we wanted to.
Exactly. There was no YouTube. There was no, thing like that where we could just like, I just want to see just trailers of movies. My wife gets mad at me all the time because there's a trailer app, and I will sit there and like watch trailers. She's like, what are you watching? Trailers? She's like, why? I was like, I just want to see what's out there. I want to see. It looks interesting. Let me see what the movie's about. Yeah. Maybe I'll want to see it when it comes out.
There's so much I'm missing nowadays. Like, I'm like, what? When was this made? And I'll see a trailer. I'm like, wow.
That is so cool. So with your poster making and stuff like that, that's something you're doing through Fiverr.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was one of those things that I think I forget where I read about it. Like, hey, there's like a freelance site you can offer service, something like that'd be kind of cool. And I signed up. And I didn't get any jobs. I think it was like over a year. And I thought I had everything filled out properly. And I'm like, what am I doing? And then one day I was like, let me just see. I think I had my prices set for like, what I thought industry standard for a poster design would be. One day let me see if I can get anybody, if this thing even works. I've never heard anyone get a job on here. I was like, I've never talked to anybody. So I just dropped all my prices to the lowest on the site. And I had my portfolio up there, and I just kind of hope for the best. And a guy from Argentina had made a short movie, and he got me for $5, and I made him a poster, and that one poster gave me a good review. And after that, it's like that opened the floodgates somehow. I don't know what it was. It's like I got on their algorithm or something, but from there, they started coming in, and now it's like, I've got 2 posters due tonight.
Oh wow. So, it's more than $5 you're making.
Yeah. Now I've raised my prices now. Okay, and when things get too busy, I'll bump the prices a little bit higher just to kind of keep things leveled out. Cause I still work a day job and, balancing family life and all that. So it's a second job. I put in some hours, but it's something I enjoy.
Yeah. That's really cool. Anything else going on? You got any film projects? I mean, other than Confederate Zombie that,
going on over a decade.
Hey, but you also were working on Dwayne's film, The Great Kentucky Goblin Spree, that also went on that was like 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah. I mean, that was, close to a decade as well.
Right.
And was it just a year ago, wasn't it? It was May 13th of last year. We premiered it at Le Chat Noir.
Yeah.
After that, I said I was going to finish Dwayne's. That was my goal. And then I was going to work on Confederate Zombie. But I was just, the whole thing with Confederate Zombie is that it's almost done. And I just want to take a break. And I just need to finish it because there's actors. We're losing some of the actors, There's some of them are dying of old age and then it's other things too. But it's like, you have to complete a project. That's my goal, is to always complete a project.
Yeah.
And so it'll get there, but maybe I have to go on Fiverr and hire some some freelance editors to get it done.
There you go. Just to finish it up for you. And speaking of losing folks, not to bring down the vibe, but you did mention Eric Miller, who is no longer with us, and that was a big loss to Wages, to your family and your circle of friends, but also to the film community here in Augusta as well. So he's definitely sorely missed. He was actually one of my actors in. He and his son were one of my actors in my short film that I did. So it was a terrible loss for the community.
Definitely.
So I can definitely understand about wanting to complete something just because you want to complete it. Yeah. But I just want to make sure we give a shout out to Eric there.
There's probably not a day that, I'll see something like, especially watching a movie, because we text each other while watching movies like, hey, or you do a screen grab of something silly or just goofy and like just laugh about it. And it's still, I catch myself like, oh, I want to share it. It's like, no, that's not something I can do anymore with. Yeah. But, you look back at the memories and you're glad that you had those memories. So to be able to know someone like that. So it's sad, but it's life and you appreciate the time you had.
Yeah, for sure. So So back to the question, Confederate Zombie, any other projects that you're working on or writing or
Not
really
not for
excited
me.
about?
I know the other members of Wages of Cine are working on projects. I have focused mainly on posters lately, and that's been it's Confederate Zombie, but posters has been my main focus for the past year or so. Really, I think quarantine kind of put me in that mindset because we couldn't get together and make things as often.
Yeah.
And I just never got back in the groove of it. But I know like Dan Beck and Eric Poe have a movie they've been working on, and they've been helping out on a lot of other short projects. We've had people come into town that have come out and we've like helped crew or set up some lights and stuff, or even done some little acting things with. But not to where it used to be. I'm still slowly getting back to where where it used to be.
Now, what are your thoughts on Augusta and its potential for film and for that industry? Because I mean, Atlanta is exploding. There are articles just about every day about a new film company that's building studios or they're expanding studios. I know they're building studios in Athens. That's just keeps coming closer and closer. I know. I just talked to a guy last week. They were shooting a documentary down in Savannah, so it's like it's here, but it's not here.
Right.
Why?
I mean, I think it's just. I mean, Atlanta is going to be the bigger city. It's going to be the hub, and I mean, I guess I don't know how that industry works. I don't know if like they would have like a office or something that would kind of branch out into those areas. I know like when they come to town, they get a crew together and there's, connections and networking for people like, hey, there's new film coming in town. So everyone will kind of, the regulars will get together and I don't think it's like an inside thing. I think you can join into those groups pretty easily. But just, I guess, finding out that they're even there.
Yeah.
You just have to, like Southeastern filmmakers is a good networking area. And even like the Black Hat Picture Show is a great networking area. I just, seeing who else is out there and seeing, for me, like I've done, like I helped out with commercials doing grip and stuff like that. And I hated it. I don't like being on a professional, like, commercial shoot anyway. In a film, it might be a little bit different, but I like kind of being in my indie scene, doing my thing. But working on it's a job, and if you gotta love what you're doing. So I do have a friend who lived in Atlanta, and he was working as like a PA and stuff for a lot of the big films. You would say like, I'm doing a new Marvel film, or Will Smith, like you're saying, Will Smith. He's like, he was in town. I got to see him. He loves it. Yeah. I couldn't do it. It's not for me. He loves it, and but for Augusta, I don't know what's keeping that from being like in Augusta, like you're saying. Yeah,
I feel like it's there. I feel like we have everything that people would need. I don't know what it's sometimes I feel like that Augusta just needs to get out of its own way. There's a lot of political stuff that just seems like people are short-sighted and are trying to take care of themselves while they may hold an office or something like that, instead of looking forward and making sure that there's something available to future generations.
Right. But I definitely don't know the ins and outs. I know we've had some great locations that have appeared in big films. They tore down the old prison that has been in, I know, like at least 2 films. So I don't know. I don't know what it all is involved in that. Yeah,
because even at that's one of those things. It's like, why would you tear that down? People paid you to shoot in there. Just don't fix it up.
Just make it
just rent it. Just make it have someone that schedules the rental time there.
I mean, eventually after we get enough of those, you could do like the Augusta movie tours, like they do in Savannah and they do in Atlanta.
Right, for sure. Yeah, because we just had, was it Mel Gibson's when we was shooting downtown? Not too long ago. The Clint Eastwood's been here shooting. I mean, there are some big names that have come through and shot here.
Yeah.
I think the first major film, and I'm doing air quotes that you can't see, major film that I remember coming to Augusta was when they did the remake of That Darn Cat. Disney. Hey, that's a major film company, but they just, for whatever reason, chose Augusta for a shooting location, and they used the Lamar building, and it's like a government building or the FBI headquarters or something.
I might be misremembering the story. At one of the film meetings, Rick Kelly, who's helped out with a lot of like up and coming film people in Augusta, I believe that is the production that got him interested in film, and he opened up his own lighting and grip company. I believe. I don't want to if I'm wrong, but something along those lines. I believe it was that darn cat though.
That's pretty cool.
And he bought a truck, and he's been like one of those guys that back in the day, like if you needed something, that's who you go to is Rick Kelly, and he would help you out.
That's awesome.
I believe they still, like now they operate under a different name, but they still offer lighting and grip services in Augusta.
That's really cool. That's really cool. You keep saying the word grip. What does grip mean for people that don't know what grip is?
Oh God, I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but it's the people who handle all the carrying the stands and setting up the lights, and
like you're literally gripping things and then setting them in place and then or moving them from spot to spot.
There's you get specialized. You get people who just do the wires and electricity and stuff like that. But for me, it's like if I'm going to grip, I'm going to be the one who's not doing the camera work. I'm going to be like the one carrying all the gear and setting up stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, and I guess it kind of morphs depending on the size of the film you're on. If you're independent, if you're doing an indie film, a lot of time you are your own grip. You're the director, you're the writer, the shooter,
you're wearing all the hats.
The audio. You're doing everything.
Yep.
That's awesome. Stephen, so what's bringing you joy right now?
Right now, spending time with my family. Spending time with my girlfriend. She has 3 amazing kids that, being able to hang out with young people, it makes you realize, hey, I need to keep that youth in my heart.
Yeah.
I like to go out and just kind of thrift for toys.
Oh, wow.
And usually I like toy photography.
Okay.
That's one thing I like to do. Just kind of relax to, that's my own thing. That's not like work related or it's like, so I just sit and I'll post some action figures and take some, I think are interesting shots and put them up on my Instagram.
Well, you have a special one. Is that the plastic Gilliam?
Yeah. Now I call it Toymanoids.
Toymanoids. Okay.
But yeah, it was a plastic Gilliam is where it started. I was like, cause I was putting it on my own page. I'm like, I think some people might be tired of seeing, G.I. Joes and
right. So you just got to specialize it into it's its own thing. That's really cool. Do you have a favorite subject for that? I mean,
as far as I definitely love like anything that was like now it's considered vintage, anything from the 80s. Lately it's been like Ninja Turtles. It's weird. I liked Ninja Turtles growing up, but I like it better now. Like I look back and like these are weird and the art involved in the sculptures and but yeah, any sci-fi, a lot of the weird stuff, any kind of the gross out figures, especially from the 80s.
Like Trash Pail Kids.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I just started reading a comic book, the Garbage Pail Kids versus Madballs.
Wow.
Like what in the world? Like how in the world how would that work? But they make it work. And it's kind of, more of a comical, fun comic, but great artwork, really gross. And kind of that, Ren and Stimpy when they go to the extreme, like gross out clip. That's how the whole thing just kind of has that look.
That's awesome. And do you have I mean, we know you like the horror and do you have a favorite movie that's like, if you're trying to convince somebody to get into what you're doing and to have a peek inside the psyche of Stephen Gilliam, then you're like, check out this movie. You always recommend this movie to somebody. Do you have like a favorite?
Goodness, I feel like there's so many. Evil Dead, the first one, just because it was so low budget. And they were shooting back that wasn't Super 8. It was still 16.
Like 16.
But it was the bare, what they could afford. I definitely always recommend that one. For some reason I'm just thinking Bubba Hotep. I don't know why it's popping in my mind. Bubba Hotep's just a great movie they're again low budget and they have like minimal locations, but super fun story. And it's horror and comedy all mixed together. Oh yeah, maybe it's I got a Bruce Campbell thing.
I was about to say maybe you got a Bruce Campbell thing.
Well, I just watched the new Evil Dead a few weeks ago, so maybe I still just got that on my. That's the last time I went to the theater was to see Evil Dead Rise. So maybe
does Bruce make a cameo in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Like a spoiler, but it's not like I don't think it's what people would think, and it's definitely
It's kind of more of a nod and a tip of the hat as opposed to just outright kind of.
Yeah. It's very well hidden and not distracting at all.
That's cool. That's cool. So something to look for if people go to
Right.
that one. Yeah, and I think talk about somebody who's had a really interesting career in those type of movies. Yeah, but I think Bruce Campbell's great, and for him to now be in the the Marvel universe and to see him show up in these different Spider-Man movies and things like that, I just think that's really cool. Great for him. And but I agree. Bubba Hotep is one of those. It's a really interesting one. That's one of those ones that like when I watched it and I was like, hey, this was just so fun. It's one of those fun movies. I'm like, what are you watching? It's like, don't worry about it. If you're going to sit and criticize through the whole thing, why are they? That's my wife talking. Why are they? It's like, don't worry about it. You know what? I'll just watch this later.
It has a little bit of everything though. It's like, I mean, it's comical because of the situation, but it's like you also feel for them. You're like, why do I feel emotion for them? It's there. It's like, oh man, you care.
All right, Stephen, this is the second part of the show where we talk a little bit more deeper into you, find out more about you and your journey with mental health. I believe very much that everybody kind of goes through the same things, maybe not in the same exact way, but there's just so many similarities that we go through as people in our mental health, whereas you may have that morning that you don't want to work, you don't want to get out of bed, you want to leave the blinds closed and you just need to stay in bed. Or you just need to shout as you're driving into work because something is just gnawing at you. For you, though, how do you keep the darkness at bay?
I think it's just constantly reassuring yourself that things are going to be okay. I mean, I think my problem is I convince myself like this is all too much. I'm overwhelmed. And that when I sit and like at the end of the day, I'll break it down like, was it really that? Like, was I really, or I couldn't handle it? Because obviously I handled it. But I think we bring, for me, I bring a lot of stuff on myself. Like, oh, this is happening. I need to feel this way. And I almost at the time, like, why am I doing this? I can just let this go right now. But I have to just kind of convince myself when it happens, like, don't let this consume me right now. Just let it go and it's going to work its way out. So just telling myself.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of self-talk.
Sure.
Yeah. And, and sometimes that's hard though,
Definitely.
because like you say, you're feeling it. You're like, you're caught up in the middle of it. And
it doesn't always work. Sometimes I give in and I get overwhelmed and frustrated and I just let it like take me down. And then it takes me a couple of days to kind of shake it off. And become myself again.
Yeah. And I think in those times, one, it's great that you recognize that you're feeling that way. And even if you let it kind of overwhelm you, you realize that you were feeling that way.
Sure.
I think those are the cues that we should use to reach out to our, whoever our circle is, our trusted circle, inner circle.
Right.
Those friends that you can say, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. Hey, this is bothering me. Can I just talk? Or can you just come over and we play a video game? Can we, something that you can help to, like you said, get it, realize that it's going to work out, and need that reassurance from someone that you trust, that you care about, that you know loves you. I think those are the times that when you feel that, don't wait to act in that way, to reach out. Don't wait to reach out.
Yep.
Being able to reach out, like you said, you're doing self-talk, reaching out to yourself. Talking yourself off ledge. If that's what it takes, do that. But if you've got, a family member or loved one that you can say, hey, I just need to reach out to you. Can we just talk for a few minutes or whatever? I think that's really important as well.
And for me, I'm lucky enough. I have several people and I can vent different things to different people, because some things are, I need to vent about work. I can go home and just kind of unload and just like, I don't need advice so much. I just wanted to say, hey, this happened today and I didn't like it. And there's other things I can I can go to my parents and like, hey, what did you do in times like this? So it's nice to have those different people of kind of comfortable, like you're saying, you feel comfortable like sharing this part or this part.
Well, and I think like you're saying, because there are different areas that some people are going to have more, and even though you may not be looking for advice at the moment, but people who may at least have more empathy in what you're going through in that. If it's a work-based thing or a customer that hired you on Fiverr that's like, you know what I mean? Somebody else that understands that, you know, that side of things, like trying to be an independent, you know, business owner, basically, that you can really, you know, hash that stuff out with or whatever. You know, because if you talk to your parents about film work, they may not understand that completely. They want to be there and support you, of course, but that may not be
they don't have that full, like, they're not in it.
That
so
understanding part is not, it almost seems, it's surface level and it's genuine. I'm 100% sure it's genuine, but you want somebody that can understand deeper as to why it's frustrating, because other people are like, why does that bother you?
I just don't do it anymore.
Right. It's like,
I have to do it. I have to do it.
Right.
It's in my blood.
Yeah. It's like, I couldn't get the temperature of this light right. It's like, I had 2 different temperature lights. What do you mean temperature on your light? Yeah. You need somebody that understands. And I think that's great to be able to have those different people that you can reach out in those times of need, for sure. Any times that you can think of that really recently may have caused you to kind of need to reach out?
I mean, yeah, actually, I mean, this past couple months have been like pretty stressful, work wise, family wise. Yeah, and it's one of those things where I have to force myself to take a break sometimes, because when I'm worried about things, I bury myself in work, and anything just to kind of distract me from like whatever's going on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I've definitely had to reach out to like my parents and some friends to just, you know, hey, this is how I feel and it sucks, and they'll say, yeah, that sucks. And it's to talk about it makes you feel better a lot of times. I mean, just to get it out there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then it's not bottled up inside.
Yeah, it's not you, and you realize that you're not alone, because there's everybody who's going through something, and you realize, like, because you look out, even when you're walking out in public, you're like, man, everyone's doing so well, but they're not. I mean, there's people who are struggling, and I hate that they're struggling, but there's a comfort in knowing that you're not alone in your problems. Like if you have gone through it, there's someone else who's most likely gone through that and worse. So. Yeah.
Either they're going through it, they've been through it, or they're going to go through it. Yeah, it's that quote that, you know, everybody's fighting a battle you know nothing about. So no matter how they look on the outside, you know, they're fighting something. And I think there's comfort in that.
Right.
You know, they say that, you know, at any moment in your life, you can always say you've come through all of those hardest times in your life so far. You know, so if you've made it through those times, you can make it through these next times too. Yep.
And I'm always able to look back at something like, how am I going to get through? How was I going to get through that? Is how I felt, you know, and I did. It's something, it worked out, and, you know, it might not have always been like the best outcome, but I'm still here and things are still moving forward, and that is reassuring.
All right, Stephen, this is the third segment of the show. This is one everyone either has a problem with or they really enjoy. Please welcome to the Fast Five. Fast Five. It's time now for the Fast Five. Sorry, I'm still working on the theme song thing. It's just,
I like it.
It's just easy for me to sing here in my falsetto. So Fast Five is powered by Poddex. It's an app you can get created by my friend Travis Brown. Great icebreakers, conversation starters. If you need to interview someone, you can pop up the app and ask some weird questions, or you can get physical decks as well, which are pretty cool because you can keep those. I sometimes will leave those with like tips at a restaurant or whatever. Just leave them a Poddex question card. It's pretty fun. And if you go to the website, chewindafatbr.com/Poddex, you can use the promo code CHEW and save 10% off your decks. But I'm going to use the app, and is no wrong answers. Doesn't matter what anybody says. There's no wrong answers. It's just first thing pop to the top of your head. You ready to go?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. Would you rather chug orange or grape soda?
Orange.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Is there a particular reason, or you just
I like the taste better, but man, it's gonna probably give me a heartburn.
Oh.
But I enjoy it.
Okay. I figure I should probably do orange as well. I got really disappointed the other day. I got a Fanta. I was like, all right, cool, orange Fanta. This is gonna be good. Opened it up, and it was a Fanta Zero. And I'm like, first of all, why do you exist, Fanta Zero?
Right, yeah.
Why would Fanta need to make a 0-calorie version of anything? It's just really disappointing. But yeah. All right, question number 2. What did your 15-year-old self imagine you'd be doing right now?
I definitely hoped I'd be making comic books.
Really?
Yeah. Or I was really into comic books and sequential art. Mm-hmm. And I realized I'm not that great of a drawer.
Huh. Even though with your degree in graphic design?
Yeah, I can't draw like the same characters like a comic book artist over and over in different poses and stuff. I can create, a image that I think looks good. But not sequentially.
Interesting. My friend Rob Mommertz, who was on the show last year, he actually illustrated a really cool comic book series called Claude, Klawde. It's a cat that is taking over the universe. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think it's a completely different skill set than just making something.
The way technology is now, it's still in the books, though. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. And question number 3. Do you like to plan things out in detail or be spontaneous?
I like to think I plan things out, but a lot of my decision making probably is spontaneous. I'm more spontaneous.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of like, let's come. All right, let's.
I know what I need to do, but I'm not. It's like I woke up and like, all right, well, this is what I got to do. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I think I like to, especially if it's like a trip or something. I like to plan the broad strokes.
Sure.
It's like, hey, we're going to go to Asheville. We'll definitely need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get to there, it's like, okay, spontaneously, this place looked interesting.
Yeah. I definitely don't want it detailed. Like at this time I will be here. Yeah. I want to just have fun and go with it.
Yeah. I like it. All right. Question number 4. This will be a good one for you. What gives you the creeps?
There's a term for it. Whenever you see like a cluster of circles, I forget the name, start with the T, something phobia, but it's like whenever you see these cluster of circles, it happens a lot like in like organic stuff. It's supposed to be like something primal that reminds you of like if you see it on your skin, it's like an infection or something like that. But you'll see it a lot like in not honeycomb has it, but it's not to a degree where it really bothers me. It's like trichophobia, something.
I'm going to have to look this up. I'm going to have to find out the name of this.
People, for a while, it was like on Instagram, you'd see people just posting photos of it. And every time I get the willies, I'd just be itchy and for like, hours after.
The only phobia I know that begins with a T is a triskaidekaphobia, which is the fear of the number 13. So, but I'm going to need to look up this other one with the clusters of circles.
Clusters of, holes or circles.
Clusters of holes. I will definitely have to look that up. Really cool. All right. And question number 5. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I mean, I'm living here right now. I think that's by choice.
Wow.
I think I can live anywhere. I mean, there's not a place I like, oh man, I wouldn't want to go there. I think you can make the best of anywhere you're at. And I have had the choice to move, and this is where I've stayed. So right now, I'm pretty happy in Augusta. Even I complain about Augusta, but this is where home is right now.
That's awesome. That's probably one of the best answers I have ever heard. That is amazing. Well, thank you, Stephen. That is our Fast Five, and that is the show. Thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. If folks want to keep up with you on socials, what's the best way to find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Stephen Gilliam, or you can use my toy page, Toymanoids. I'm on Facebook, and you can look up Wages of Cine on Facebook as well.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that I put the links to those up on the website at chewingwiththatbr.com. Of course, and I'll put the link up for like the Wages of Cine YouTube channel as well, because that's got a lot of your work and a lot of your movie reviews, and a lot of the 31 Days stuff is up there and everything like that. So you definitely want to check that out. And if you are a filmmaker, let me encourage you to go ahead and look for Wages of Cine on filmfreeway.com and submit your your film to the film festival here. Thank you again for being here, Stephen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. And if you would like to support this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. But until next time, I look forward to the chance we have to sit a spell and chew the fat.